Asbestos is a known carcinogen, and there's no safe level of exposure.
Mesothelioma is a miserable disease.
They must fight a truly global battle.
We want to demonstrate our enormous respect.
Keep up the good work. I look forward to the day when ADAO is no longer needed.
Fix it. Fix it. Everything in the world can be fixed.
Keep me in your heart for a while.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday brunch. I hear a lot of noise and clinging, so that means the food must be good because everybody's eating quickly. I want to welcome you back to the last weekend event that we have before the screening. And this weekend is made possible by many people, but I want to pay tribute to our sponsor, our platinum sponsor, Brewer, who made a very generous donation for the entire conference and are actually sponsoring this lovely brunch today. So please welcome Susan Kanapi from Brewer & Budd. I know you have a few words. Thank you.
Just a very few words because we've had so many words this weekend, but they've all been great. You know what's amazing is over 35 years ago, there was this little tiny startup firm called Brewer & Budd in Texas, and somehow they got connected to a group of guys that were getting sick in Tyler, Texas. And these guys in Tyler, Texas had been packaging up roses in burlap bags to sell. And they sold them all over the state of Texas, and I can remember then they'd sell them on street corners, these Tyler roses that were beautiful, wrapped in little burlap bags. But all these guys were getting sick. You probably don't even know this, Linda. And nobody could figure out why. So somehow our two little startup attorneys fresh out of school decided to look into this, and they realized that the burlap bags that these people were wrapping the roses in used to contain asbestos. They were recycled burlap bags. And that was the genesis of all of these people getting sick, and that became one of the first ever, probably the first, but we don't know it for sure, asbestos cases to be tried in the U.S. and successfully litigated. And that's where all of this started, really. The discovery about the asbestos industry and how they knew that asbestos killed for years and years and years and did nothing about it. So this started way back when in Tyler, Texas. But Linda, it didn't get anywhere until you started with your advocacy. And you and Doug started with your advocacy work and your education. And you really took this to a whole other level that no law firm could ever take it, in terms of banning asbestos and education and unifying groups from all over the world. So Linda, we thank you for everything that you have done and that you're doing, and you are just rocking it. Thank you.
We have a wonderful, we have more time with Barbara McQueen, which is exciting, and we also have Stacy and Leah presenting. But before we actually begin, we want to take a moment. You probably noticed in the beautiful program that ADAO put a page in honor and memory of Dr. Stephen Levin, and so did the Card Clinic. And on behalf of ADAO, I'd like to ask Robin to come forward because we would like to present you with a little something. Dr. Levin was an amazing man in so many ways, as you know. And for us with ADAO, I could always pick up the phone and call Stephen and say, Stephen, I'm looking for a Selikoff report. Stephen, what about you think about this? He spoke with his voice so strongly, not just as a physician, but as a man dedicated to human rights. And as he worked hard with ADAO, and we all miss him. And in loving memory of Dr. Levin, we want to present you with this wobbly.
Okay, but, watch out, right?
But tribute.
Thank you. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks, Linda. And I just wanted to say just a few things. It's only been about 7 weeks since, it's only been about 7 weeks. And I've heard from people in Japan, all the way across this country, Italy, practically the whole world, giving condolences. So it wasn't just my loss. Steve was a caretaker for many, many people. The unions all over this country are really at a loss as to what is going to happen without Steve taking care of them. And so in reflection on what Dr. Harbit said in the beginning, the need for a new generation of occupational docs is upon us. I have just this week made a fund, scholarship fund in Steve's name, and we'll be working with Sinai to try to attract doctors, young, residents and students to come and join the fight. So if any of you care to look up more about Steve, our family made a website, and it's www.stephenmlevin.com with all of his speeches, all of the work, all of the tributes. It's pretty impressive, and that's where the fund will be, I think, logged. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you, Robin, for allowing us to honor Steve's memory with that dedication. Well, I want to start on the reverse mode because this conference, as you can see, was a wow from our perspective. We hope you enjoyed the weekend in the academic content that was delivered, but also on Saturday night. I'd like the following people to stand as they're recognized. Doug Larkin, who just put a scoop of eggs in his mouth. Sorry, Doug. The co-founder of ADAO. My daughter, Emily, who shares and participates 110%. Please stand. We have ADAO board members here, Dr. Freddie Siegel-Gadan and Lori Rice. I don't see Ellen here. Would you please stand, ADAO board members? We have a fabulous science advisory board. I believe Dr. Black is here this morning. Is there anybody else, Brad? I think just you. Round of applause for Brad. The man in black in the back who rocked us last night, Jordan Zevon, our national spokesperson. And the volunteers and interns. Perfect timing, Suzanne. Ellen and Suzanne work. Would you please stand, Ellen and Suzanne, wave. I want to use the magic wand you used this weekend more often. It was amazing to turn this room in from a classroom style to a magnificent dinner, and we owe it to Patty Jamgachan too. Is she in the room? Please stand. You have to stand. There's Patty's flowers. Many, many, many of you made donations for that silent auction. I'm not going to call you out by name, but for those many people here that collected gifts and donated so that we could raise nearly $5,000 last night. Would the donors for the silent auction please stand? That would be Anne. Don't make me do this by my memory. Who else? And Jill and others. We have two terrific interns. We'll bring them in later. I believe Spencer's outside. I'm hearing waving. Did I forget somebody? Oh, okay. So anyway, this list is in your program if you ever want to find some hardworking people in the future. Our partners, Brent Kynock is still here, as well as Christine. Please stand as we thank you for partnering for prevention. And let me say, we're not done. We've got a great year ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to 2013 in D.C. with Brent, and I bet you Christine's going to find her way across the Atlantic again to join us. I would think so. But thank you to both of you. Yes, it takes money. It takes a lot of money to put on these events and videotape. And this is a perfect time to thank Sue Ann Taylor and her crew, Andrew and We also can report that Matthew is doing well after his appendectomy and will be released from the hospital today and coming back to the Marriott. So chicken soup for Matthew. But all of this content will be available online for people around the world to tap into, which is pretty exciting. And we're really proud of the opportunity. And it comes because people like Barron and Bud and the Simmons firm as platinum sponsors, Motley Rice, and of course our silver sponsors of Early, Lucarelli, Sweeney and Strauss, and Levy, Philip and Kunsberg. They do a great job. I'd like to ask the platinum sponsors to please stand. Barron and Bud and Simmons, please, all of you. I don't believe James is here from Motley Rice, am I wrong? But I know I have some silver sponsors. I see Annette back there. Would you stand, please, Annette? All right, we're down to 3 more people speaking, and it's going to be a fun morning. This is where we get to kind of wear some casual clothes, kick off our shoes, and just relax. So you're going to enjoy Lee and Stacy and, of course, Barbara McQueen. But take a look at that list. Impressive, and we thank all of our speakers. Well, the first speaker today is going to be Barbara McQueen. We're going to set it up informally again like last night so we can have a conversation. And then we're going to have Leah and Stacy present a beautiful PowerPoint and their strong message. And Lori Rice will at 10:30 be leading us in our candle lighting. And you should all have votive candles and matches, I believe, on your tables. And we really come together as one at 10:30. And people around the world will also be lighting candles to begin Global Asbestos Awareness Week. So at this moment, I would like to ask Barbara McQueen to come forward. All right, this is some time about you, and it's a different kind of conversation because everyone here is going to be collecting not only their luggage and their wits about them and traveling home, but I think they want to know when they go a little bit of your inner strength because you can guide us on a journey with how you recovered and you process your anger and grief and loss. Your book is beautiful, and we basically sold out. I think there's only 1 copy left.
That's the end. That's the last of the books. I mean, there's no more till they get republished again. So wow. Thank you, everybody.
Wow. Can you share a little bit about what it was like taking those photographs on the ranch? I mean, you shared how Steve was your lover, your partner, and your pal, and the photographs are just so down to earth and absolutely stunning. And you give us a window and a view into your life through the photographs. Will you share a little bit about that?
Well, the photographs, Steve wasn't sick during most of it, and it was just like anybody else you take pictures of. Like here? Oh. Okay, sorry. He was just like taking a picture of our daily travels, everything that we did together. Or it was stop here, I want a picture here. And he was great at stopping and doing. And, there's maybe twice. There's 1 picture in here when he didn't want anybody to know who he was. And he had ICM, which was his agency that I guess he worked with, and a big red grandma hat. Now, that didn't bring any attention to him. But he was a great subject. And, and then when he got sick, and then this all happened, and I just kept the pictures for almost 20-some years, and people kept approaching me, and I was holding on to Steve. You've taught me a lot this weekend, but I was holding on to it, and I wouldn't share, so this is, I guess, my sharing, and this might be the way I let go a little bit of the hurt, a bit of the hurt.
It's so artistically beautiful, and for those who haven't had a chance to open the book, you're definitely going to want to get one on the reprint because the photographs are gorgeous. And I love the ranch ones with the crooked hat and the kind of crunchy smile. When you were taking those photographs, did you have any idea that you were going to be building this sort of documentary of your life? Was it just kind of random, or just?
Well, we had talked about doing a book together. I said, you're supposedly this big actor guy, and let's do something fun because you don't do fun things. And this would have been fun for us, and we were going to call it The Long Haul. And I think there's a little story in here that when we got into Cedars, and he was in the wheelchair, and I'm pushing him down the hall, and he goes, honey, the long haul, get it? And I just said, that's not funny. You know, we're not going there. But I think he would have been very proud, and it's a whole different side that nobody knows. And that's the real man. That's the fun guy.
The long haul, that's...
Because we were going to do the long haul, H-A-U-L.
No,
and
I get it.
He had the H-A-L-L. No humor.
No, no humor. So for many of us here in this room, we've lost a loved one. And working through grief and anger is hard and it's painful. And for me, it never seems to go away. But you've done an amazing job with channeling your energy and your feelings into something so beautifully productive. Do you have any pearls of wisdom when you look back? It's been 30 years, 32 years since you lost your beloved, but that's a lot of healing time, but at the same time I know you're raw. It never goes away, but do you have any words that you could share for those of us here that can learn from you?
Just like everybody else. I mean, it's 30-some years and I'm still pissed off. I'm still mad. I'm mad at the doctors, I'm mad at Steve, I'm mad at the whole thing. And, you know, I think it makes me tough and it makes me strong. And then nice Sue Ann put that little video together yesterday, and when I was standing there waiting to come up to accept your award, I just about lost it right then and there. I thought I could, just, ooh.
But you shared your story, and for all of us here, speaking for myself, you gave me strength and hope just by sharing your story and coming to the fight. And that it's not always easy to do. Okay, I don't know what this means, so I'm going to ask if you're uncomfortable. What does it mean, hold your mud?
He'd say that to, anybody that just, keep your chin. I don't know, you got to know what it means, I guess, but I know what it means. You got to be... That didn't make any sense.
No, we all want to know what it means.
Well, just hold your mud, keep your chin up. You just don't let anything get you down. You got to do it. I mean, you just have to do it.
Well, I think you've given us a little bit of hold your mud this weekend, and I'm really grateful to have you on board with ADAO because you're just such an amazing woman, and with Barbara's voice going to Washington and around the world with us, and along with Jordan, it's through highly visible people that we can raise the consciousness of many people.
You just don't want to get arrested by yourself.
Did you tell them the story?
Not yet.
We're actually planning to get arrested in Washington, D.C. We figured that we'd have some pro bono work done, so we're not really that worried about it. But we're going to talk to Doug and see if we can work on getting arrested in Washington. He's shaking his head. Sorry, Doug.
I don't think that's going to be hard.
No, I don't think so either. So, in closing, this conference was the first time you really got to meet our ADAO family. Anything special you want to share or close with?
Yeah, I'm just such a little baby in this whole thing. This opened my eyes. I didn't know any of this was around, and I want to help, and I don't know where to do it. And you've taught me, and you're teaching me, and I expect you to keep using me and abusing me and getting me arrested, and I'll do whatever I can to help you.
Well, with love, we will partner for prevention. And Barbara, thank you.
Thank you.
We have
this woman is amazing.
Don't go. We have an award for you. Stay right there. Okay. Our last two speakers are two fabulous, strong sisters with a voice and a mission, and a mother here that's walking this journey with her daughters, which is quite lovely. I'd like to welcome to the podium Leah Nielsen and Stacy Catran, who are going to share their message with you about their journey and their father. Come forward, please.
Like everyone remembers where they were when JFK was shot or when 9/11 transpired, I'll never forget the day I found out my dad had mesothelioma. Excuse me. The phone was ringing as I walked in the house from delivering a wedding cake, and when I answered it, I heard my sister crying, asking if I had read my email from Mom. Mom was too upset to call us, so she sent an email knowing that we all check our accounts numerous times a day. In that instant, my life changed forever. I closed my catering business and flew home to Canada as soon as I could, leaving my husband and 2 young sons to help care for Dad because his dying wish was to stay home until the end and Mom needed help. We had no idea how soon that would happen, but 2 months and 5 days after Dad's diagnosis, he passed away. It was a blessing he didn't suffer long, as it was excruciating for him and just as painful for us to watch a once vibrant, healthy man slip away. Dad passed away the day after Mother's Day, almost 4 years ago. A lot has happened in that time that I wish my dad could have been part of. My boys are now 13 and 10 and still have good memories of my dad, but I know that those will fade in time. We actually had to hire someone to do a renovation on our home, something we'd never had to do before because my dad had always helped us. We've taken some trips and had some milestones at church that I wish Dad could have been part of. And I can't count the number of times I've said, oh, I wish Dad could have seen that, or I wish Dad could be here. In June, when we started planning our walk, we honestly had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. I remember one day chatting with Stacy and telling her how I was going to invite Linda, who was co-founder of ADAO, to our walk, and how we were Facebook friends. And I think Stacy thought I was nuts, like Linda would come to Sarnia, Ontario. But I invited her, and she came. I remember when I found out, I actually screamed. I was so excited, and I immediately called Stacy. It was at that point that we realized our walk was going to be big. We had fabulous support in Sarnia, including that of the mayor, which made it more exciting. And we were also thrilled to meet some of the group of 7 that we had been working with for months. We felt like family. We cried together, we laughed together, and now we could fight the Canadian government together and in person. For the past 4 years, I've learned a lot about the fibrous mineral that prematurely took the life of my father. Had Dad not died of mesothelioma, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I honestly had no idea what was going on in regards to asbestos in the Canadian government. And I didn't know that it wasn't banned yet in the US. A few people commented to my mom that maybe my dad had to die in order for Stacy and I to organize the walk and protest in Sarnia and to help educate others. For the past year, I've thought a lot about my dad, a lot about my own mortality, and a lot about asbestos. This past December, I had my very first CAT scan on my own lungs, and thankfully it came back clear. I was worried because I was exposed to asbestos through my dad's work clothes and also the ceiling of my high school gym. And for months, my shoulder has bothered me, and it still bothers me, and that was the only symptom my dad had. He had gone to physical therapy, physiotherapy, the chiropractor, the doctor, and had had x-rays. It was finally a physiotherapist that suggested that maybe it was my dad's lung that was the problem and that the pain was manifesting in the shoulder. My dad was finally able to get a CAT scan, and it was then that they discovered the cause of the shoulder pain, mesothelioma. I know my dad loved his job and loved his coworkers. He really cared about others and was always willing to give service when needed. He taught me a lot about construction since I was his gopher, and he always helped us on home renovations when they would visit us in Utah. He taught me to appreciate where I was born and where I lived by showing me the world. He also taught me to respect others, no matter their race or color, and I believe that respecting others means helping those that aren't able to help themselves, such as those in developing and third world nations. This weekend, we're all united in our grief, but also in the hope that we can make a difference, and together we will. We need to be the voice of our family members. Our friend Martina just lost her young husband this past week, and we need to be the voice of Julius now. I know the victims don't want others to suffer as they did. Together, we can stop this crime against humanity.
Linda, I was going to take my shoes off, but I think I'd be too short without my heels on, so Dad was a great dad and grandpa. He was very involved and hands-on, and we were fortunate to have him until he was 72. I know so many in this room were not as fortunate. But since all his relatives lived into their 90s, we still feel cheated out of many years with him. As Leah related, in 2008, our lives turned upside down when his sore shoulder was diagnosed as mesothelioma, and he succumbed to the disease just 2 months later. Slowly, life returned to normal, or at least a new normal. At the time, my children were ages 7, 5, and 3, and life was busy. I was upset that my dad hadn't been protected from asbestos, but since I couldn't turn back time, I didn't think there was really anything that I could do. Gradually, I began gaining awareness that Canada was still exporting large quantities of asbestos. But because the industry had done such a good job with their misinformation campaign, I was confused as to whether chrysotile asbestos was actually deadly. As I began to learn the truth about chrysotile, there were several critical things that happened just last spring. Number one, my youngest child was finally in school full-time, and although I volunteered regularly at my church, I was otherwise a stay-at-home mom, and so I actually had some free time. Number two, on April 27th, I was sitting at the kitchen table, and my husband walked in from his laptop in the next room and said, "Sweetie, you're not gonna like this, but Harper just campaigned in Asbestos, Quebec." Canada was in the middle of a federal election, and in hopes of winning seats in Quebec, our Prime Minister had pledged his support of the asbestos industry. Incidentally, it didn't help him get any seats in Quebec anyways. Number three, 2 weeks later on May 12th, coincidentally the 3rd anniversary of our dad's death, The Daily Show did its episode on Asbestos, Quebec, and I hope you have shared that with every person you know. Seeing the mine owner, the mayor, and the whole asbestos issue skewered gave me the courage to think, this is wrong, I'm angry about it, now what am I gonna do about it? 1 week later, I placed my first order on Vistaprint of anti-asbestos t-shirts I created for my husband and me. Number four, on May 25th, I watched Oprah's final show. And although I didn't watch Oprah regularly, I was mesmerized by her message. Quote, "Each one of you has your own platform. Do not let the trappings here fool you. Mine is a stage in a studio. Yours is wherever you are with your own reach, however small or large that reach is. That is your talk show. That is where your power lies. Everybody has a calling. Mine aligned with my profession, but not everybody gets paid for it. My great wish for all of you is that you carry whatever you're supposed to be doing. Carry that forward and don't waste any more time. Start embracing the life that is calling you." On June 5th, my husband and I donned our anti-asbestos shirts, which had recently arrived in the mail, and posted a picture wearing them as his Facebook profile picture. I didn't even have my own Facebook account yet. Then I sent an email to my family telling them to check it out. Leah emailed the next day asking where she could get some too. And later that day, we spoke on the phone about the t-shirts and wanting to do something to build awareness about asbestos and stop the Canadian exports. I said to Leah, "I wish we lived in Sarnia." I live a couple hours away and she lives in Utah. "I wish we lived in Sarnia so that we could do a walk." Instead of agreeing with me that it was too bad we couldn't, Leah said, "Why can't we?" This set off about 20 days of absolute insanity as we brainstormed and aligned everything to be ready for her arrival in Sarnia the first week of July so that we could start getting the word out and get media coverage. Postcards, banners, and business cards were ordered. A new logo was designed. Posters were created, contacts were made, like with Sandy, and a website was started from scratch, and we also began our Facebook page, which we still use, A Walk to Remember Victims of Asbestos. And our husbands and children adjusted to seeing us on our laptops endlessly. When Linda agreed to fly out for the walk, we knew we were going big time. On June 28th, I sent my very first email to Kathleen Ruff to let her know about our walk planned for October 1st. Kathleen Ruff became a real mentor to Leah and I, and 4 others fighting the industry who we became very close to over the course of the summer, even though we'd never met. During that time, one of our group, Heidi, lost her mother to mesothelioma, having lost her father to the same illness 4 years earlier, and her sister was diagnosed with pleural plaques. We've had many ups and downs over the last few months, and it's been nice to have encouragement through this often discouraging battle of form letters from Canadian politicians telling us how safely Chrysotile can be used. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but we finally feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. My words of advice: get inspired and fight injustice. It is unjust that the Canadian asbestos industry is planning to reopen a mine with government support, and it is unjust that many families do not receive compensation for a workplace fatality, which is what mesothelioma generally is. Find support. I'm glad that I had my sister and 5 others along for the ride to stay encouraged, as well as a much broader network. And with email, Skype, and Facebook, you don't have to have anyone local. My support group was spread across the whole continent. I'm also grateful for the support of my family. Know what you can commit to during your season of life. Maybe it's just an hour a week of writing letters to politicians and newspapers, but any advocacy is good. Put a Facebook picture up that relates to an anti-asbestos theme, or make an anti-asbestos t-shirt, and then you can educate people even when waiting in line at the grocery store. And lastly, plan to come celebrate in Sarnia, Ontario, when the asbestos industry is shut down for good. Thank you.
Thank you. It was beautiful. And meeting those 2 crazy sisters has been absolutely fabulous. And Mom Jackie, who feels like a second mom at times to me. And she gets all the facial expressions and everything else. And how lucky you girls are to have your mom here. And thank you. Your presentation was lovely. I won't say you won't shed a tear, because you may. And that's part of healing too. And it's okay, because you're with all of us. I'd like to introduce a dear friend and ADAO board member, Lori Rice, who's going to lead this candle lighting. Get close to your table. There's a votive candle on each table and a book of matches. It's your moment. No one's on stage. It's a private moment. Share it as you wish. Lori, thank you for leading us in this.
The light of this candle reminds us of love. The light of this candle heals our grief. The light of this candle gives us courage. The light of this candle honors our memories. The light of this candle strengthens our pledge to continue. Thank you.
This concludes our weekend events. We're going to begin today, Global Asbestos Awareness Week. It feels like a fast train moving, but it's wonderful. I am happy and I'm sad. This remarkable, smart, funny, committed, loyal, tall woman has worked with us as an intern for 18 months. She graduates with an MBA degree in May. I will lose her to her new career, and I'm so proud of you, and thank you.
I'm just going to go ahead and return the favor. We were trying to be sly about that, but Linda, as you guys know, has done a phenomenal job and works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this was great, and thank you guys all for being here, and we just wanted to give you some flowers. Thank you.
Well, this is shared with every volunteer and person that made today possible in the weekend event. So thank you. I consider you part of my family. If you didn't take Stacy's notes down, you'll find them on the website of the things everyone needs to do. And thank you for joining us and supporting this entire weekend of awareness. Thank you.
Keep up the good work. I look forward to the day when ADAO is no longer needed.
Fix it. Fix it. Everything in the world can be fixed.
Your heart